If you're someone who deals with heavy periods, maybe painful, heavy bleeding, PMS, breast tenderness, something like endometriosis, or even those severe mood swings, or maybe you have been struggling to get pregnant, then there is a high chance that you could be dealing with estrogen dominance. And the thing is that estrogen dominance is not just about having too much estrogen, which is kind of what it sounds like, but it's actually about how your body metabolizes the estrogen, how it detoxifies it, and how your environment is actually influencing your levels. So, today I want to talk and walk through what estrogen dominance really is, how your gut health can actually play a major role in estrogen dominance, how something like mold toxicity and environmental toxins can contribute to this, and how your personal care products can be really impacting your hormones, and then in general, how all of this can really impact and affect your fertility. And then, most importantly, I want to touch on what you can actually start doing today to improve the situation if you feel like this could be where your hormones are at, that you are in an estrogen dominant state. So, estrogen dominance is, it doesn't always mean that your estrogen is actually sky high. Despite the name, what could be happening is that your estrogen could just be dominant in relative to progesterone. So you could have high estrogen or you could have normal estrogen levels but really low progesterone and still be classified as estrogen dominance. You may have poor estrogen detox. You could just have some excessive exposure to those estrogen like chemicals that we're going to talk through in a bit. And estrogen is super important for the uterine lining, while progesterone's job is to actually support the implantation. So if your estrogen levels are too high and your progesterone's too low, then you may start to see that your cycles become painful. You could have more clotting. Your PMS symptoms could be a whole lot worse than they should be. You could have a weaker ovulation, and implantation can be a struggle, which all is going to then impact fertility. So, let's actually dive into why this can happen and where estrogen dominance often comes from. And one of the most common causes of estrogen dominance is related to the gut. So, your gut plays a major role in your estrogen balance. So, inside your gut, you have bacteria that actually regulate estrogen metabolism. And when your estrogen is processed through your liver, then it ends up getting all packaged up and it's going to get sent over to the gut. And if your gut is healthy and in a good state, then your body eliminates it like it should. But if your gut is inflamed, or maybe you're more constipated, or there's dysbiosis, or maybe you've got a yeast overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth, then what can happen is you have this enzyme that's called beta-glucuronidase, and that enzyme can start to increase and it can actually start to unpack the estrogen, and then it causes it to recirculate back into the bloodstream after your liver already tried to package it up. So now it's difficult to eliminate this estrogen and it starts to get reabsorbed. And then this can in turn cause bloating, constipation. It could add to more yeast overgrowth, so many different things. So this can all start to create that estrogen dominant situation. And your immune system also lives in your gut. So if your gut is inflamed, then your immune system is also going to become dysregulated. So that means that now implantation can be a struggle because implantation really requires immune tolerance and a balance and regulation. So now not only do we have a hormone imbalance, but we also then have an immune dysfunction that's going on. So these together are really going to create more of a roadblock for somebody's fertility journey. So that is how the gut can play a role. Now let's touch on something that I feel a lot of doctors kind of dismiss or just don't dive into, and that is mold. So the thing with mold is that certain mold toxins, which are called mycotoxins, can actually act as endocrine disruptors or kind of just throw hormones off. So these can stress the liver out, they can impair detox pathways, they can actually disrupt mitochondrial function. It can also even increase inflammation levels, affect your hormone signaling. So if your liver is overwhelmed from this mold exposure that you may be getting from your home, from your workplace, wherever it may be, it can start to affect your body's ability to detox estrogen. And I see this especially in women that are dealing with things like chronic fatigue, brain fog, chemical sensitivity, irregular cycles. Maybe they have in their health history that they've actually lived in a water damaged building or they've had a flood in their home. Those are signs to look out for. And now this is going to impact their ability to clear their estrogen, and then estrogen starts to accumulate. And this is another common way for a female to end up with estrogen dominance. So that is how mold can play a role in this. Another really common thing that I see leading to estrogen dominance is what we're exposing ourselves to with personal care products. So there are so many everyday products, whether it's in our makeup, our hair care, our cleaning products, even like fragrance that could be found in lotion, in even plastics, drinking from plastic water bottles. So many different everyday products contain what's called xenoestrogens. And these xenoestrogens are actually synthetic chemicals that mimic estrogen in the body. So these could be things like parabens, phthalates, BPAs, synthetic fragrance. All these chemicals end up binding to estrogen receptors, and then what it does is it amplifies the estrogen signaling. So your labs could actually look good. You may run your lab work and maybe your estrogen levels don't look sky high, they look okay, but the receptors could be stimulated constantly from these xenoestrogens that you're getting from your everyday products. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to your toxic burden. And that's really what you are exposed to on a day to day basis with regard to what's in your environment. So, paying attention to swapping out your hair care for toxin free options, swapping out your makeup, your skincare, all those different things, they really do add up and can play a massive role when it comes to fertility and eliminating any excess estrogen or solving a hormone imbalance. Okay, so we hit on three common ways that we can see estrogen dominance take place. That's through the gut, through mold exposure, and through our personal care products. So, to kind of sum it up, excess estrogen or poor estrogen detox can do several things. It can suppress ovulation, it can reduce our progesterone production, it can even shorten the luteal phase, which a lot of times goes hand in hand with lower progesterone levels. It can actually increase our risk of miscarriage. It may contribute to endometriosis. It can contribute to fibroids. It can lead to higher inflammation levels in the uterus, which really throws off the environment and the immune system in the uterus, which can definitely impact implantation. So, if somebody is estrogen dominant, a lot of times we do see lower progesterone levels. And without that strong progesterone level, implantation and pregnancy can really suffer because we need progesterone for a ideal successful implantation, and we need to see progesterone levels continue to climb in that pregnancy to sustain a healthy pregnancy. So, if nobody is looking at your detox pathways, your gut health, your environmental toxin exposure, things like mold that you may be exposed to, your immune system, then you definitely need to dive into those things because it's not standard to do that. It's not standard to run this type of testing, but it can play a huge role in the world of fertility. So, let's talk about some things that you can start doing differently if you suspect that you may have estrogen dominance. One of the things that you want to focus on is addressing constipation. So, this is where you may need to increase fiber. You may actually want to run a stool test because the cause of constipation for every single person is truly so different. Constipation could be from a lack of beneficial bacteria. It could be from an overgrowth of bacteria, which is the complete opposite. It can be from a yeast overgrowth or parasites, or maybe poor absorption and slow breakdown of proteins and fats, which a lot of times could be due to stomach acid levels. Many people have lower stomach acid levels than we really should, and that are optimal for good digestion. And that comes down to stress. When we are under stress and our nervous system is stuck in that fight or flight state, that's when stomach acid levels actually drop. And we could have a harder time breaking down our proteins, breaking down our fats. And in turn, it's going to lead to slower transit times. So basically, you're going to see more constipation. You're going to see other signs like bloating and gas as well. Maybe some stomach aches could be more common. So, in order to figure out what's causing constipation for you and then to help your body to actually improve that so that you could eliminate your hormones and you could eliminate excess estrogen that could be recirculating in the system, it's important to run a stool test, because that stool test will show us the entire microbiome of what's going on inside your gut. And then that's where we could really come up with an individualized plan to address it and to improve the microbiome so that you no longer are dealing with constipation, and this would then help your estrogen dominant condition. Another thing that you can start doing is to support your liver detox pathways. So, we talked a lot about how liver can be a big culprit as to why somebody is not clearing estrogen well. One of the easiest things you could start doing is to actually increase your cruciferous vegetable intake. So, that would be eating more broccoli, more cauliflower, more Brussels sprouts, any of those cruciferous veggies, because those can actually help you to metabolize and clear estrogen out of the system. They are great for the liver, and they really are going to help improve that estrogen metabolism. Other ways to help support your liver and your detox pathways would be to make sure that you're getting adequate minerals, you're getting zinc, you're getting your optimal B vitamin levels checked. Make sure you have good B vitamin levels, you're hydrating enough, and you're sweating enough. That one's really key, because one of our major detox pathways, or really ways that we detox, is through our sweat, through our feces, through our urine, through our sweat. So if you're somebody who's not getting outside and sweating or not exercising regularly, that is something that you can start to add in to actually help promote more detoxification. And because this is helping you to detox through the sweat, you can actually help to clear some of that excess estrogen that could be accumulating in the system. Another thing you can start to focus on a day-to-day basis is swapping out a lot of your personal care products. Things like makeup, things like plastic water bottles. Start using glass instead of plastic. Make sure that you're drinking only filtered water. Using a whole house filtration system is really key, because a lot of times the water quality is so poor and we're actually getting a lot of chemicals and endocrine disruptors through the water that we could be drinking. So that's an important thing to switch if you don't already do that. And then other ways we can help with the estrogen dominance would be by supporting our progesterone naturally. So this is where paying attention to blood sugar is key. Blood sugar, if it's dysregulated, can really throw off our ovulation. And if we're not ovulating appropriately or having a strong ovulation, that is going to impact our progesterone levels. If progesterone's too low, then it allows estrogen to be dominant. So paying attention to your blood sugar is key when it comes to getting your progesterone in a good spot, and then helping your estrogen to not be so high or not be so dominant. So to recap, there's a lot of different things that could be playing a role in estrogen dominance. And the biggest takeaway I would say is to really get tested, because for you, it could be your gut health, it could be your liver, it could be low progesterone. There's so many instances and different scenarios that could be going on. You could have two women with the same symptoms, both maybe dealing with this estrogen dominant type of situation, similar symptoms, but the reason for those symptoms and the reason that they have estrogen dominance could be drastically different. One could be dealing with a mold toxicity, while the other could just have really low progesterone levels due to chronic stress. So until you know the cause of your estrogen dominance through root cause testing, it can be difficult to get on the right path toward actually healing. So that's where, if you need personalized one on one support, I can guide you remotely. I work with patients virtually throughout the United States. So you can click the link below and we can get you testing done, sent over to where you live, and get you the right testing so we can start to get answers and then start to actually put a plan of action in place to heal from estrogen dominance, to improve your fertility, and to improve your overall health. So, in the next video, because we just talked about estrogen dominance, I'm going to actually dive into 10 of the most common products that I see women using on a pretty regular basis that could be throwing off their fertility because they have endocrine disruptors in them. So stay tuned for that video. We will talk through 10 different swaps that you can start to make, which will not only just improve your fertility, but will really improve your overall health as a whole, really for the entire family. So I will see you in the next one.